Welcome to the After Work Hangout, the podcast where you'll hear why and how everyday people shifted their careers to meet their personal needs. I'm your host, Crystal Lee. In Season 1, we explored topics related to work and money. And now in Season 2, new guests join me to chat about work and health. From practical tips to heartfelt stories, we hope you'll get inspired and make the moves that are right for you. Farah, thank you so much for joining the After Work Hangout. We're going to talk a lot about career decisions and changes, all wrapped around the theme of work and wellness today. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's my first podcast, so I'm very excited.
Yay. It's my honor as well. So for listeners, Farah Kotadia is a clinical and career counselor at Wellness Works Counselling. So really it is that perfect intersection of the season where we're talking about work and health. And so I'm so excited to chat with you and delve into this. Often at the beginning of the conversation, I would just love to hear your career journey of how you landed in this work. I know you a little bit and kind of had witnessed your shift over the last few years, and I'm so delighted and happy to see you do this really important work. But it was a kind of a really interesting journey because when I look at your profile, you've got quite a few letters behind your name.
Yes, alphabet soup, right?
Yeah, so maybe if you don't mind, could you share a little bit about your own career journey and how you got to Wellness Works?
Yes, actually, I would love to. Thank you. So I started off in human resources and I fell into that career. My undergrad degree is actually in communications and I wanted to do something in communications. Journalist was sort of top of my list, but I fell into HR and I loved it. And so I went back to school to become certified in human resources and then sort of went from there. I went from corporate and high tech and then I moved into nonprofit, and specifically the immigrant integration sector. And then HR evolved into dealing more with programs and development. But the element that always continued was people. And I found that I really enjoyed working with people. But as I got more seasoned in my career, I found that I liked the one-on-one more than I did sort of the whole team. Teams were great. They're awesome, but I felt the one-on-one was a bit richer and a bit deeper and a bit more meaningful. And then, like a lot of people, when COVID hit, I just decided it's now or never. And so I went back to school to do my master's degree in counseling psychology, something I had always thought about, something that was always niggling at the back of my mind. And so that's how I came to where I am today. So a lot of things happened during that time, a lot of challenges. And so I feel like I've kind of earned my place. And I started my practice after graduation. It's still growing. I'm still learning, but I'm just really loving the journey.
Oh, wow. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like especially in counseling, you can really show up with your full life experience, right? And that actually enriches the relationship you have with your clients and the folks you can serve. And I get a sense of this when I look at your bio and website because you talk a lot about social justice and because, like you mentioned, you worked a lot with immigrants.
Yes.
Can you share maybe a bit of how that shows up in your work and why you feel it's so important to incorporate that lens, let's say, of social justice and other intersections?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that what always sort of angered me the most in the immigrant integration sector is the funding that newcomers receive does not include mental health supports. So includes, things like settlement. So finding a doctor, finding a school, getting, your MSP card or whatever it is that PRs get. But the mental health support was never there. And I think that is the most important element when you're migrating to a new country. And so I sort of wanted to, as a private practitioner, to be able to offer that. So even now, as a BIPOC woman, I offer services to newcomers on a sliding scale rate, sometimes at a pro bono rate, so that they're able to access that. So that equity lens is very important to me in making sure that they receive everything that they need to make a really good start in Vancouver, in Canada. So I think that's how that social justice framework fits into the work that I do. And I do take into account cultural nuances, cultural differences, intercultural communication, things that might be important, from a collective culture that is very different from an individualistic culture like we have in the West. So those are the things that I bring into my practice as well.
That's so interesting. And in fact, you and I met kind of through those channels of working in nonprofit. And so
Yes.
I
Yes.
fully understand what you're describing. So much of
Yeah.
that work is dictated by the funders and what they ask for and how they want the money to be spent. And those higher ups, their decisions can change at any moment. And
Yes.
yeah, on the grounds, you might be able to see what the needs are, but sometimes you're just not able to meet those needs in the way that you think could be done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's really neat and so amazing that you do offer these opportunities for sliding scale and even pro bono.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even back up a bit and just talk
Sure.
about why do you think mental health is the foundation? Like, yes, definitely having access to family doctor and all these things are important, but for you personally, and you can speak whether it's personally or folks that you've observed in the community, like from your perspective, why is it so important?
Yeah, so I think just as part of the lived experience. So my parents came here as immigrants 50 years ago. I was an immigrant. I was 3 when we moved to Canada. But just seeing, hearing about their experiences and the things that they went through, and the clients that we had in the immigrant integration sector, the different levels that they brought with them in terms of career awareness, credentials, English language skills. The one thing that they all needed is the emotional support, which, counselors tried to give them within the realm of what they could in terms of what funding offered. But I think that there was so much more that was missed. So one of the stories that comes to mind is, this was early on in my career before I decided to become a counselor, is, a family of 7 moved from Syria, and the mother was always the caregiver, the homemaker. The father was always the one who worked outside of the home and sort of brought in the bread and butter, so to speak. When they came here, he wasn't able to find a job. The woman was able to find a job because she had some administrative skills from early on in her life. So the roles changed, the roles reversed. The man of the house became the caregiver, not knowing his identity anymore. Who was he? Right? He had to take care of the kids. He did not know how to cook. He did not know how to clean. He did not know how to do all of those things. And so a lot of the burden came onto the mom for having to do everything inside the home as well as work outside of the home. And the family counseling, the 6 or 12 sessions that the counselors were able to offer to them went a long way. And I wish that we could have been there for more of that support. So that's what I mean is, when people move here from a different country, roles change, rules are different, right? The laws are different. They don't know that, speaking loudly or aggressively can be taken as verbal abuse. So there's a lot of things that need to be taught and can only be taught in certain environments. And so that's why I think mental health is so important. I think, like you mentioned, it's the foundation.
Yeah. Thank you for providing such concrete examples. And as I hear you describe these stories, what you said about like the volume and tone of your voice and how it can come off, I imagine that ties in with your HR background, right? Like you were on
Yeah.
the opposite side of it, maybe
Yes.
trying to mediate some of these, I'm going to call it conflict or misunderstandings in the workplace. But now you get to
Yes.
approach it from like a really deep human level.
Yes, yes. And I can go beyond that. When you're in HR sometimes and in, that corporate sort of environment, although nonprofit it's not very corporate, but still, there are rules and regulations, policies and procedures. In a unionized environment, there's collective agreements. So you often look at it from that perspective, that very sort of surface level, this policy has not been adhered to, this policy has been broken or whatever. When you're in counseling, you can dig deeper than that, right? So what is it that prompted you to behave that way? Why did you use the words that you used? Why is this person saying that you bullied them or harassed them? So you can get really to the crux of the issue rather than it staying at that surface level. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes so much sense. And there's a separate episode this season where I chat with Miriam Versat, and she is a certified nonviolent communication trainer. And
Yes.
some of these themes, actually quite a few themes from all the different episodes are running through. So I hope folks will listen to all the episodes because I really think there's so many ways to look at it. And you found how you want to address it. Many moons ago, I had a grad school professor who said, the more you learn the big picture, it'll become an issue of which part of the puzzle do you want to work on? Because there's so many places where you can apply your skills and contribute. But at the end of the day, where do you want to work on the piece of puzzle?
Right.
And it sounds like exactly what you said. You've tried the other pieces.
Yes.
In this stage in your life, this is where you want to be.
Yes, exactly. And I feel very lucky. I feel very privileged to have found my puzzle piece, right? And where I belong. And so a part of that, the career part of the career counseling is really helping people find their meaning and then their purpose and what is their puzzle piece? Where do they belong, right? So many people are looking for that. What is my purpose? What is my legacy? What am I going to leave behind when I leave this world? I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. And so I want to sort of help them with that. So that's sort of where that intersectionality comes in, the clinical and the career, because I can ask them, what are your values? What do you think are your core values? Not the ones that society has told us that we should have, but what are your core values? Who do you want to be when you grow up?
For sure.
And sort of help them, right? Sort of connect that.
And you mentioned collectivistic cultures, and oftentimes, especially in collectivistic cultures, you haven't paused to really identify the individual values because most of the time you're serving the common values.
Yes, exactly. And so I do have clients who are trying to sort of break away from that, the traditions of what their culture brings or traditional careers of what their culture sort of teaches them that they need to go into. And they're forging their own path. And it's very difficult for some of them, but it's also very liberating. So, but it's also the reverse. Like, I don't want people to do things that go against their core values. So if their value is to be a part of that collectivist culture, to contribute to that in some way, I want it to be that, it's them being authentic and not doing what their other family members want them to do. So it's really a delicate situation to sort of work through, and so many different areas to try and break through.
For sure. Oh, such great points. And I imagine, it's not a very fast or linear path. It might be some experimentation, things might not work out sometimes. And then you take a few steps back and then you try again.
Yes.
So having someone like you support them along the way, it really makes a big difference.
I hope so. I don't know.
Well, as you know, I also coach folks through life and career transitions, and something that really popped out when again I looked at your profile is that you're also a certified grief counselor. And grief actually I've noticed over the years comes up a lot, even in the context of career. For example, the grief surrounding being laid off, the grief
Yes.
of even if you're moving to a job that you're really excited about, you might be leaving your work friends, right? Your community. Or in some cases, say if you're experiencing ageism, racism, and other things during the job search, there can be also a lot of grief involved. So, would you mind sharing, like for you, how does that piece of grief counseling comes up, and if you have any tips because it is such a universal experience, just any
Absolutely.
overarching kind of tips and strategies to help folks.
Yes, and I say this with lived experience. So I have been laid off 3 times in my life, and each time it was just incredibly difficult. The one time that really hit me, it took me 2 years to
Oh, wow.
find a full-time job. And, talking about depression and anxiety and just being in that dark space, it was incredibly difficult. So, if you're experiencing that right now, please know that you're not alone, and it's very, very normal to go through that. And what I always tell clients is it's okay, it's part of the grieving process. So, take time to grieve. Grieve the person you were at that workplace. Grieve the contributions that you thought you were going to make in the future. Grieve your job title. Take time for that. Don't just sort of suppress it or push it aside. When the sadness comes, sit with the sadness, sit with the grief, because it's a time for you to reevaluate. Reevaluate what you want. Reevaluate what you want to do, what you want to be. And only then can you move forward, and move forward in baby steps. Don't try to take leaps and bounds forward, because you're just going to end up taking steps back. Move forward in baby steps. Today I got out of bed, I took a shower, I went for a walk. That's great. Tomorrow I got out of bed, I took a shower, I went for a walk, I looked at online job postings. Baby steps. The next day, I narrowed down some postings that I'm interested in. The next day wasn't a very good day. So I didn't do anything. I stayed in bed. I reflected on the years of work, the years I had contributed to this company. So that's how it's going to go. Grief is not linear. Any type of grief is not linear. And so I just tell people to go with what they're feeling. Now, having said that, Crystal, I want to say it's sometimes so easy to get into that dark hole, and then it's difficult to come out of it. So as long as you're tempering it with, okay, I've got a down day, I need to have an up day in a couple of days. Then I need to have then it's okay if I have a bit of a down day. Try not to go into that dark hole, because then it'll be hard to dig yourself out of it. And how to stop doing that is, again, baby step. Do one thing at a time. Try to find the glimmers in the day that I always tell clients, when you're having a down day, try to find the glimmers in the day. Try to list things that you are grateful for. You don't have to break out a gratitude journal. You don't have to write down, 5 things that happened today. It can be the same thing every day. You can just repeat it to yourself at night. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for the food on the table. And just those little pieces can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on a bit
No,
there.
no, I love it's just what you're describing there is there's this care and this gentleness and just like it's just so kind. It's like remembering to
Yeah.
be kind to yourself.
That's exactly what I want people to do is remember to be kind to yourself. You always hear people say, right? Like, what would you, if your best friend came to you with this issue, what would you say to them? So I want, people to talk to themselves like they would talk to their best friend. You wouldn't tell your best friend, you're stupid, you're dumb, you don't have it in you. You'd never say that. So don't say that to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that I find can be a helpful practice and I share with my clients is maybe it's writing it out if your brain processes things
Yes.
sometimes easier by writing
Yes.
versus, sometimes people are saying, look in the mirror and say affirmations. That can be like really big and scary. So maybe you
Yes.
just write a few things down for yourself. No one needs to see. You can take a peek when you need to. Like it's really like working with what your version of baby steps is.
Yes, absolutely. Some people are visual. I've had clients who are artists and they actually draw or paint to help them through their grief. Other people journal. Other people will, recite mantras in their head. Other people will write. Some people will have catchphrases or phrases. Like for me, what worked is I have this phrase, my dad says this to me all the time, this too shall pass. And so when I was facing that layoff, that it took me a very, very long time to find myself again, I had that phrase written down and it was right on my nightstand so that when I woke up in the morning, it was the first thing that I saw. And it helped me get through those dark days. So whatever works for you, whether it's a mantra, a phrase, some art, writing down something in your notebook, whatever it is, use that.
Yeah.
Use that as a tool.
Yeah. Get creative. I've even seen some folks take pictures of things that made them smile throughout the week. And then at the end of the week, they can just remember it. So, like, you're all so creative. So, apply it to this as well. Yeah, I love all the things that you're sharing. Another thing that I often hear, that we've kind of talked about being in that job search phase.
Yes.
I kind of want to go maybe one step before that. Let's say someone is working, but they're starting to think about finding a new job or a new career. And I come across folks like this often. And the motivation is some form of dissatisfaction in their current work.
Right.
And a phrase often comes up, toxic workplace.
Yes. Oh, I hear that so much.
Yeah. And we use that phrase a lot and we throw it around. But I'm curious, like from your perspective and the conversations you have, and you've also worked in HR.
Yeah.
What would you say are characteristics of a toxic workplace?
So the first thing to say is that those characteristics will be different for different people. When we say toxic, it usually means that our values are not aligned with the work that we do. Right? There is that misalignment, whether it's what the organization does and stands for that doesn't align with who we are or who we want to be, whether it's the work itself that we do that doesn't really, make sense to us at a deeper level. So it really goes to, again, and I know I'm going to be repeating myself in saying this, but it goes to our core values. So if your core values don't align with the workplace or what you're doing, that's when you find that, it's a toxic workplace. People will often say, well, no, I like the work that I do, but it's my manager that's toxic. Well, how is your manager toxic? Well, they don't appreciate me, or they don't see what I do, or they play favorites, or they don't know what they're doing and they got promoted. So then it goes to, again, your core values of fairness, of equity, right? Of transparency. So really go back to what those core values are. So if you're feeling like this isn't really working for me, I would say reevaluate. There are so many tools out there that will help you reevaluate your core values, or you can see a coach, or you can see a career counselor to help you navigate that. Once you know what your core values are, you have a bit more of an idea of the industry or the sector that you want to be in. Some people want to give back. Okay, so that means you want to be in a helping profession. So really kind of narrowing that down. And then of course from there, it's going down to the specific careers and the job descriptions. And, some people have done management work or upper management work and they no longer want to do that. They want to be sort of front facing. So what does that look like? So I would say if you're thinking that, or not even thinking, feeling, emotionally, viscerally feeling that I'm in a toxic workplace, go back to what your values are.
Yeah, I think you touched on it with the example of like maybe you work in management and you don't want to do that anymore. You can change your mind. Like your career spans decades, right?
Yeah.
So different
Yes.
stages of your life, other things may
Absolutely.
take priority. Maybe you need more flexibility because you're caring for family, right? Like, so
Definitely.
it's not a bad idea to check in periodically.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it changes at different, our values change at different phases of our life, right? We don't have the same values when we're single in our 20s, or 30s now, if you've become a parent, in your 50s and 60s, if you're caregiving for your parents and also trying to still raise adult children, there's so many different things. And so we have to reconnect with that part of our life that tells us where we want to be, where we need to be. So I think it's great to be doing those pulse checks every now and then.
What advice would you have when it comes to folks feeling scared and nervous to make a change, right? Like, let's say they're like, oh, like, I've identified it. I know I need to make a change, but I'm honestly just paralyzed by fear.
And fear is good. Fear is
Yeah.
good. The fear tells you that you are wanting to, like, a part of you is wanting to move out of your comfort zone, right? Your little bubble. So the fear protects you from that as well, right? Which in a way is good. But you also want to kind of embrace that fear and question it a little bit. So, what is it that I'm scared of? Am I scared of not getting a job that I want? Am I scared of rejection, which is actually quite very number one, I would say, in people's fears when they're looking for a job? It's that fear of rejection, that fear of feeling less than because they don't get that particular job. I think what happens, Crystal, is we tie our identities in to our jobs, right? Who we are and what we do. When you think about when we get together in a small gathering or a large gathering or whatever, one of the first questions people ask you is, so what do you do?
Yeah.
And right? And if you're between jobs or if you've just been laid off or you haven't quite figured that out yet, what do you say? And so the first thing is trying to come out of that and untying yourself from your job title and what you do. You are a separate identity from what you do. So that sort of takes that fear away a little bit. It's like, I'm still going to be Farah, even if I'm no longer the Director of Human Resources and Communications, even if I'm no longer the Director of Settlement and Services, even if I'm no longer a facilitator for the Newcomer Women program, I'm still going to be me. And so it's really not losing yourself in that job title and in that work. You are separate and apart from what you do for a living.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, does that resonate? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm even thinking, sometimes maybe things aren't going so well in other parts of your life, right? And
Yeah.
maybe it's actually a sign that those are the areas that warrant your attention. So maybe in some
Yes.
cases, you, how should I say it? Like, look for a job on the side, but also you're focusing on your hobbies so that you're reconnecting with that
Absolutely.
side, or like spending time with friends again, or like so much of identity in our modern society is tied to work, like you said.
Yes.
But all those other things like fun and relationships and like connection to nature or whatever it is, movement, like all those things count and are part of your identity as well. And maybe we should
Yes.
focus a bit more on those. And when you do well and feel better in those areas, it'll give you the energy to then tackle the work side.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know what you said about hobbies and activities and things that we like to do, sometimes that can turn into, wow, like, something you never even thought of, right? People who turn jewelry making that they do on the side into an Etsy business, right? People who enjoy talking to other people and things that they find out and they turn it into a business. You never know where it can take you. So lean into that. Lean into your interests and your passion and your hobbies and your activities, because you don't know where that might take you.
And you mentioned glimmers before, identifying and
Yes.
noticing glimmers. I would even say that concept can be applied here to notice
Yes.
the glimmers in your life that make your heart just kind of feel like it's skipping a beat because it's so excited,
Yes.
or like your
Yes.
fingers are tingling because you can't wait to get your hands on it, right? Like
Exactly.
when your body gives you those cues, notice it and like follow it and follow
Yes.
that energy that like, and something will probably come out of it in return.
I think so. And you see all these entrepreneurs who have done amazing things, with things that they didn't even think could be a business. It was just a hobby or something they were good at. So definitely, look at that as a glimmer as well. Yeah.
And also, something I've tried to shift when I do meet folks is I don't ask what you do. I'm trying to
I
shift the
know.
culture. So here are a few other options for folks. We can maybe
Yes.
get creative and brainstorm here. You could ask like, what brings you joy? What do
Yes.
you like to do when you have free time? Or
Yes.
when
Yeah.
what gets you up in the morning, right? Like there's
Right.
so many things that you can ask besides what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah, yeah. We're just so conditioned, I think, as society to ask that question. But I would love it if somebody, asked me, "So what is your passion? Like, what do you sort of live for?" And I would be like, talking to people, getting to know people. I remember way back in my first job, we had this, company newsletter that would come out, and the one question they would feature a different employee, and the one question that they would ask is, if you were a kitchen utensil, what would you be and why?
Oh, I love
And
it.
I love that question. I've used it in icebreakers and meetings and things like that. And I said I would be a can opener, because I love to sort of peek inside to see
Uh,
what's underneath all of that. And I think that's what got me into HR, and that's what brought me into counseling. So ask somebody that, if you were a
yes,
kitchen utensil, what would you be, right?
that's a good one. I'm gonna lock that
Yeah.
one away.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask you, what are
Yes.
your passions? Where do you spend your energy outside of work?
Oh my gosh, I love to read. I am an avid reader. I do tend to watch maybe a little too much TV.
Me too,
I
me too.
love.
You're not
Do
alone.
you? Okay. Okay. Good. Good. The one thing about me that my friends find very strange too is that I love serial killer documentaries.
Ooh.
I don't know why, and I don't know if you want to keep this in the recording, but
Okay, I
I
will
love
divulge
that.
my guilty pleasure is that I
Okay.
love zombie movies. Like
I love
all
zombie
types. Like
meeting.
there's so many types of
Yes.
zombies. There's like fast moving ones, the
Yes.
slow ones. Like there's so
Yes.
many types and like from all around the world, like South Korea or like North
Oh my
American
gosh.
style. I can go on
Yes.
and on.
Oh, love it, love it. Serial killer documentaries, movies, I mean, books that are murder mysteries. I can't read anything else but murder mysteries. Like I've tried romantasy, I've tried sci-fi, I've tried, I read the classics, but but murder mysteries are where it's at. And I'm with you on zombies, Walking Dead and
Yeah.
28 Days Later and 28 Weeks. I don't know if I can say all of this. I don't know if it's copyright issues, but
Oh,
you
I'm sure
know
it's
what
fine.
I
It's free advertising
yeah.
for them.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. But all of those. So I'm with you on the zombie ones as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I enjoy spending time with friends. I love eating out. I'm a bit of a foodie in that way. But yeah, my Instagram is all food. My personal Instagram
Yes, I
is all
follow
food
you.
pictures.
I love
Yes.
seeing where you're having high tea.
Yes. My favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and even just like chatting with you about this, huge smile on your face. You're so lit up, right? And
Yeah, I love
you
it.
are not shy to share because like this is who you are. I feel
This
like
is who I am.
the more we know ourselves, the more we're like, hey, this is who I am. This is my authentic self, and I'm willing to share this with you.
Yes, exactly. And I posted recently about vulnerability, and I really wish that people would, be okay with being more vulnerable, showing sort of the softer side. We put so much emphasis on resiliency and showing our strength, and yes, we all have that as human beings. We're built to be resilient, but it's okay to be vulnerable. So when you have been laid off, or when you're not happy at work, or there's something happening that you feel is unfair or unjust, it's okay to be vulnerable. Accept that about yourself. Share it with people.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
finding the spaces where you can be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I talk a lot about community, and I chat about this with other guests as well, and that importance of finding your people so you
Yes.
can be
Yes.
soft and open
Yeah.
in a place where you're held by others. And sometimes
Yeah.
it is with a counselor or coach or family
Yes.
member. But there put yourself out there. The more you do the things you enjoy, I feel like you're more likely
Yes.
to find your people.
Yes, definitely. And that's people who've, I've had some clients who are new to Vancouver, and they're like, how do I make friends? And it's so difficult. Go to meetups, right? Everybody puts their interests on meetups. Go to a meetup, go to, if you're religious, go to a place of prayer. If you have some hobbies with like-minded individuals, you can share that. I think there are some apps that were first for dating, but now it's for friendships.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
I
right.
don't know.
Oh my gosh, I'm like old. I'm like I don't know the apps. I think like
I don't know the
Bumble,
apps either.
Hinge.
Okay, yes,
I'm gonna
Bumble
do
is one of
some
them. Hinge, yes. I don't. But
research
try
and maybe
that.
offer
Yeah.
some links in the show notes. But
Yeah.
yes, I agree with you. I feel like even Facebook has an area for it, but
Yes. For different groups, and
just like don't be
definitely.
shy. Give it a try, even if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out the first time. Try something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, definitely. So there's always a way, I think. I think you do end up finding your people. You just need to look. I know it's hard, but just keep looking.
As we talk about this, it reminded me of a thought that I had earlier around job searching, and I think it applies to this friendship dating as well, which
Yes.
is not being so focused on the outcome, but really celebrating your own efforts. Because if we are applying for jobs, like you might not hear back, and your mind can start making up stories and again going down that spiral, like you mentioned. But
Yeah.
if our objective is not to measure how many interviews we get, but we actually measure it by how much effort you put in, that is something you can always celebrate. Just as if you're
Yes.
going out to a event, saying hello to a stranger, right? It's
Yes.
not about whether they say hi back and become your best friend, but the fact that
Right.
you made that effort to say hello and smiled,
Yes.
right? That is
Yes.
the win.
That absolutely is. And we need to celebrate all the wins, little wins, big wins, and the way that I say it to clients and the way that I taught myself as well is, every interview is a practice for the next one, right? So every, interview, it's like I learn a little bit more about myself. I learn what types of questions people are asking. So it's one step closer to the job that's meant for me. So, reframe it. I think we tend to focus so much on the negative. Reframe it in your mind, right? It's okay, oh, I didn't get that job. They didn't like me. You know what? Don't frame it like that. Okay, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been interviewed for that position. There were probably like 200 people that applied for it, and I got an interview. And so now I am one step closer to getting my dream job.
Yes.
So reframe it.
Yeah. Another one that I share with my clients is treat interviewing as networking. It's a networking opportunity.
Yes.
You just met two new people and you can
That's
connect
right.
with them on LinkedIn, thank them
That's right.
after, and hopefully turn that into a long-term connection. Even if it's not an employment relationship, it's still someone in your professional network, and you got to learn more
That's
about their
right.
company, what they do, the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So it's research and networking.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's so many great tips because I feel like you've been on so many different sides of the table and you can offer so many tips. So maybe I'll just kind of open it up free for all. Are there things that you would like folks to know from, your current professional expertise, or just on the general topic again of work, health, taking care of ourselves?
Yes. There was one job that I worked at. I gave it my heart, my soul, my blood, my sweat, my tears. And I ended up being, I had to go on a medical leave for 3 months. And this was like, 20 years ago, just because I had put so much into it that I did not take care of myself. I did not take care of my physical health or my mental health. And, that is the job that I ended up being laid off from. And so you think, wow, but I put all of this time and this energy and I gave so much of myself. How could they just let me go like that? So everybody is replaceable. I am sorry that, people don't like to hear this sometimes, but everybody is replaceable. Take care of you. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your physical health. Take care of the people around you. And also, it's never too late. If you decide that this career is not working for you, I'm too old to go back to school. No, you are not. It is never too late. I went back to school to do my master's in counseling psychology at the age of 48. It is never too late. I am 53 today. I've just, been 1 year into my private practice. So if there's something that you want, if there's something that you feel passionate about, do it. Don't wait for anybody. Don't think about time, and don't think about your age.
Yeah.
So that's the advice. Yeah.
Another guest, Chris Pollitt, he's an employment facilitator, and he also made a career change to become that today. But he said something he shares is to think about the people who you're going to serve, and they deserve you and your gifts, basically.
Yes.
So
yes.
think about, yes, like you deserve to pursue it, but also think about the people who will benefit from you pursuing your dreams.
Right. Exactly. Everybody has something unique to offer the world, and the world needs it. So think about it that way. Right?
And just imagine, like, if everyone acted that way, like, everyone would just be so much happier, and I think we'd all get along better.
I think so too. We'd be at peace with each other. We wouldn't be fighting so much.
Yeah.
So. I agree.
All right. Like, I want to hear maybe any other final thoughts on lessons you've learned or lessons you like to share from like a encouraging. I know you've already shared a lot, so I feel like I'm just trying to like get out every drop of Farah I can here, because Farah is just this like wealth of knowledge. So like, it can be like more like sayings that you have? This too shall pass. Or, like other things. I'm just so curious. I want to hear more if you have any.
Well, the one thing I think that everybody goes through is that imposter syndrome. We all have that imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? Like, I still say that to this day. It's like, how can I counsel people? I don't have my life together. Like, how can I, and so I think it's okay. It's very normal to feel that. But just again, go back to what you are unique at. What is your skill? What is your strength that you're able to offer? And go with that. Think of it like you mentioned, it's a gift that you've been given and you want to now share that gift with the world. So that's kind of what keeps me going, especially that phrase, this too shall pass. So in the dark days, have a phrase, have something that this too shall pass. It will keep you going. And every situation is temporary, And I hate that because, people used to say that to me. Oh, 5 years from now, you won't even remember that problem. And it's like, but it's such a big problem for me today. Yeah. But, think about it in the big picture. Think about it in the scheme of things. It really is very, very minute, although it may feel like a big deal to you. Mm-hmm. So hang on to those glimmers, hang on to those pieces, and you will get through it. You will.
That's such a beautiful note.
Not very profound. Sorry, Crystal. It's not very profound.
No,
but
I think it's a beautiful note to end on. It's just so... Well, I certainly feel like you'd be an amazing friend to have to chat with, but also just an amazing counselor to chat with.
Aww,
and
thank you.
I just appreciate you so much. And I'm so glad that you are doing this work in the world and that you're bringing all of you to it. And it really shows.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you again, for inviting me on. I've been wanting to do a podcast for so long, and I'm so thrilled that you invited me. Thank you. I feel very lucky to be here.
You know what? We're gonna celebrate it right now. Woohoo!
Okay. Woohoo! Jazz hands.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Farah. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Crystal. You take good care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the After Work Hangout. If you enjoy honest conversations about career decisions and life choices, remember to subscribe to the After Work Hangout so you'll know when our next episode drops. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating while you're at it. You can find a summary of this episode along with more information about our guests and resources that were mentioned at relocal.ca. That's RELOCAL.ca. If you take a look around the website, you'll also find blog posts, downloads, and community offerings to support your career development. I'm your host, Crystal Lee, and I'm always interested in hearing what topics you'd like to learn about. You can connect with me on Instagram at relocal.ca, or you can email me at crystal@relocal.ca. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to all the guests and supporters who make this podcast possible. This includes my podcast manager, Lindsay Curtis, and graphic designer, Alex Dewar, who created the podcast art. Thanks again for listening and sticking around. I hope you're more inspired and ready to make the moves that are right for you. See you at the next Hangout.